Afternoon to all of you, and welcome to the second episode of SportsTalk 757. I'm your host, Claudel Clark, Executive Director of the Hampton Roads Sports Commission. Obviously, you can see the customized hat, mask, and some hats in the background. Special thanks to Threads Embroidery and Graphics for the customized hat and mask. I'd like to acknowledge our gracious sponsors that made this possible: Optima Health, Atlantic Bay Mortgage, CHKD Sports Medicine, and the Hampton Roads Chamber. Today, I'm especially excited. In addition to our guest, Joe Gregory, we're also broadcasting from our new offices at the World Trade Center. The Hampton Roads Chamber has recently moved over here, so we're excited about that. Had our open house last night, and excited about our new digs. Today we have with us the general manager of the Norfolk Tides, Joe Gregory. Has been with the Tides since 2011. Also at some point was vice president and general manager of the Admirals, so he's going to tell us more about that. Joe, good afternoon to you.
Hey, Claudel, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Also, those who are participating and tuning in, please use the Q&A function at the bottom to submit your questions. At some point, we'll give you a trivia question so that you can win one of these nice hats or a customized mask. Joe, just briefly describe your role as the general manager and just tell us a little bit about how all this has come about and how you landed in Norfolk.
Okay, great. Yeah, I, being the general manager, pretty much oversee the day-to-day business operations of the team. So, the ticket sales, the marketing, the sponsorship, also the human resources, the box office, and in addition to all that, overseeing the food and beverage, the relationship with the city, with the league. I sit on the board of governors with the league when we vote on rule changes and things like that. Also, the logistical side with the travel, working on buses and meals and hotels. So all the business side of things. Also, I'm the point of contact for the Orioles, so I work with Kent Qualls, who oversees the minor leagues for the Orioles, but also when we do exhibition games and things like that, working with them. So really, as a GM at the minor league level, you oversee the business of it. I don't make decisions on the day-to-day, who's playing. That's being sent down from Baltimore. So that's all communicated through the manager. But besides the day-to-day, players, it's everything else pretty much falls under the purview of the GM here. As far as how I got here, I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, and that's a big sports town, about an hour south of Cleveland, an hour north of Pittsburgh. And my older brother worked in the LPGA. There was a tour stop, in the Women's Pro Golf Tour. So I started working there when I was 15, and I was taking out the garbage and painting and putting up fencing and all the grunt work. Got more and more responsibility through high school and college. When I graduated college, they offered me a full-time job to be the director of operations. So I was in charge of turning a golf course into a tournament, with the utilities and grandstands and all that stuff. Did that for a few years. Then there's a single A ball team in town, the Mahoney Valley Scrappers in New York Penn League, and I think you played in the Penn League. So worked for the Scrappers for a couple years as the assistant GM. And there was a hockey team in Youngstown that just started. In their first year, I went over to be the GM there. So I was GM there for 3 seasons. And then in 2008, I was recruited to come down here to run the Admirals. So I ran the Admirals from 2008, through our run in the AHL when we won the Calder Cup in 2012, into the years with Anaheim for 2 years. And then 1 year when we were in the ECHL, the team was sold to Anaheim. The Edmonton Oilers came in and put a AA team in here. So we ran that team for a year, and then we ended up selling them. So there's actually 5 years where I ran both teams, the Tides and the Admirals, at the same time. But since then, I've been GM of the Tides here and loving every minute of it.
A busy stretch for you.
Yeah, it's been a great career. And, this is the longest I've stayed in one spot, and, it's a great place to work in sports.
Obviously, the Tides have accomplished some great things, have been our AAA affiliate here in Norfolk, and we've all, I think, at some point probably have walked, boated, or bussed to or driven to Harbor Park. What are some of your greatest memories or greatest accomplishments, or some of the things you really come to the surface that you remember the most about being the general manager there?
I'd say the toughest year, and it was my first year, because I was still running the Tides as well as the Admirals, and that was the year the Admirals won the Calder Cup. So kind of got thrown into the fire where for 2 months we'd have Tides games and Admirals games going on at the same time. There are nights where we'd have a home game at Scope over there and we'd have a home game here. And I was taking the Tide between both venues. So you don't expect to be playing hockey in June, but fortunately we were that year. So I think that first year, really the baptism by fire, and figure if I could get through that first year, I could get through anything. And luckily we won the Calder Cup and had a great season here. So it was a heck of a way to get my career started here with the Tides.
Gotcha. Well, obviously, you guys have done a lot in the community. And as you and I were talking, as we were kind of getting going, exhibition games versus Old Dominion, exhibition games versus Norfolk State, all kinds of exhibition games that have been allowed to be played at the park versus high school teams. But tell us a little bit more about your community involvement, especially your youth field makeover project.
Yeah, I'm proud of the youth field makeover. That's something that I brought here with my first season. It was just something that, having someone like Kenny Magner, our head groundskeeper who's been here, since he was in high school, and he's well beyond high school age now. So having his expertise as well as others here, Mike Zeman, our director of stadium operations, is something where we, felt like we had this knowledge that, a lot of local youth fields, youth managers didn't have, just because they're working their normal jobs, and then volunteering to coach teams. So especially in the off season, we had the time, we had the knowledge, and I just feel like it was a good way for us to use our skill set to be able to help out local, leagues in the area. I think one of the first fields we did was a challenger field in Norfolk, where the lips were so high, some of the special needs kids in that league couldn't physically get on the field. We just finished one over at Plaza in Virginia Beach, and for the longest time we were doing fields everywhere but in Virginia Beach, just because all the other fields were getting so many more votes. The commute was a lot easier to Virginia Beach than when we did Gates, North Carolina, or the Eastern Shore. Sure. But that's the thing. We've had such a big footprint, going into Smithfield, going on the peninsula, where I feel like we've had a good impact, and it's something where you feel good, you feel tired and sore the next day, but you see that tangible impact, and really it's something that you can be proud of, that you made an impact, not just in a few people, but the whole league, and hopefully benefits from that for years to come.
Gotcha. Well, kind of leading into that, again, we've recruited there. We've had all kinds of high schools play there. Tell us a little bit more about the high school program, where the high schools are able to compete on your field.
Yeah, the high school program has been something been done long before I was here. Heather McKeating was great with, shepherding that through, and now John Rogerson, the director of community relations overseas. And it's, a great program where two schools can sell tickets to the game. And you not only, obviously get your ticket to the high school game, but you get a ticket to come to a Tides game. And if it's something where you're playing on a Tuesday for your high school game, usually we give you a ticket to a Friday or Saturday, a more desirable game to come back. And it's a way where you sell that ticket. Maybe they don't even, friends, family, neighbors can't make it to your high school game, but they're interested in coming to the Tides game. So it makes it a little easier sell. The high school team retains a portion of that, where they can raise some funds, for whatever needs they have. Plus the teams get a chance to play on a, professional quality field out there. And, the bad side is we have such a short window to be able to do that, because we definitely have a bigger demand than we have availability, because we have to, figure out when we could do it. Is it after a day game, during, on a Thursday, or is it, do we try to squeeze it in beforehand, but then, we try to make it a first day in on a, a series where our teams aren't taking BP because they're just getting back from the road trip. So because of all the little circumstances you have to look out for, it's tough to schedule those. So we do as many as we can, and hopefully come April, we'll be doing them again.
Well, a lot of people have asked, kind of leading into this, and a person who was near and dear to my heart, what was it like when you had Dave Rosenfield there? And for those of you who don't know Dave Rosenfield, Mr. Baseball, King of Baseball at some point, longtime general manager of the Tides, and just kind of a mainstay in this area, who has recently passed away. But what was that like working with Dave? He did a ton for our program at Norfolk State. and programs all over the region. And I'm certainly had an influence on you.
Oh, no doubt. And actually, over my shoulder here, those three pictures are Rosie from back in the day.
Right.
So it's something where, Rosie will always be, top of mind here. I wouldn't be here without Rosie. When I interviewed for the Admirals position, I interviewed in this office. It was Rosie's office at the time. And, so from before day one, Rosie was part of my career here. When I was running the Admirals, we'd get together for lunch and we'd discuss different, promotions and, giveaways and things like that. Because Rosie, he'd seen it all. He'd done it all from his time in Bakersfield, California, prior to coming to Norfolk, and then, the 55 years, I believe it was, he was here with the Tides. There's, he knew the community. Everyone knew him. So he was a resource that, invaluable doesn't even do it justice. That, if I had a question or if I, needed to be introduced to somebody, Rosie was the guy to do it. And, I think in his younger days, he was a lot more gruff and people had some stories of him over at Old Met Park, but, he's also teddy bear and, the nicest guy that, he, like you said, helped out at Norfolk State. I think he helped out a lot of people that, he doesn't always get credit for, but he was definitely baseball couldn't have had a better ambassador than Dave Rosenfield.
Sure. I know that even Dave would have been, taken back by what's going on now with the pandemic and not having a season. I don't know if there's any of those 50 or 60 or 70 years that Dave didn't have a season, maybe a strike in there. But, with that said, what kind of effects that you can share with us has that had on the Tides and your staff and your players and the season as a whole, if you could just expand on that?
Yeah, it's obviously been unprecedented, sitting here in March, I was supposed to go to spring training and not, literally, I think it was 2 days before we ended up canceling that because that's when it started getting really more clear as far as how serious everything was. But even, as we were sitting here, like, oh, maybe we won't get April and May in, but we should get our season started by July 4th. And, you kept thinking, well, best case scenario. And then obviously at some point, you're like, well, we're not getting any season in. And, the fact of the matter is, we had to lay off, more than half of our staff here just because, there's nothing going on at the park. So it's tough to keep everyone employed. Those that did stay employed had salaries reduced. We're trying to get other events in the park, but, up until this past Friday, the governor had the restrictions on no more than 50 people. So there's not much I can do at the ballpark when you're only dealing with 50 people. Now I believe we're at 250 and I think it's 1,000 maybe for sporting events outdoors. So we're hoping to get some events in here to, to take advantage of, having the park, but it's obviously been, tough going. It doesn't do that justice, but it's been something where, we're making the best of it and hopefully, come April, we'll be able to put that behind us and, it won't be the same. I'm confident of that, how it was in the past, but hopefully we get baseball here come April again.
Well, as we've all had to, and we say here in the chamber, we've had to pivot, so to speak. What are some of the ways that you guys have pivoted to, doing things digitally or online or staying in contact with the fans and the community and your partners and your sponsors? How have you guys made that transition as we all have had to kind of stay relevant?
Yeah, we started off by, even though we weren't playing games, we would air condensed games on ESPN radio. So, we'd cut out some of the dead time between plays or maybe, the uneventful plays and pack that down. So, once a week at least would be top of mind, as people saw the ESPN radio programmed in their, presets. So we did that in the early goings. We started getting, we ordered all our giveaways before we knew all this was going to happen. So those were arriving and, all those were sponsored. So we started tying some of those in with some merchandise packages to, get, the Ryan Mountcastle bobblehead out there or, the hat sponsored by Virginia Birth Registry and that. So, still trying to get some exposure for those sponsors that did pay to be on those giveaways, and doing a minimum amount of those giveaways because we still plan on giving those away next season, but at least get the exposure out there this year. I think Ian Locke, who oversees our communications, does a great job with keeping fans engaged on our social side of things, whether it's, doing the alphabet and, best players whose last name began with whatever letter, or, this day in Tides history, and also promoting, what our guys are doing in Baltimore, because we've got some players that are, fans saw here at Harbor Park last year that are playing, fantastic for the Orioles, and, keeping the Orioles in that playoff race that, no one expected them to be, anywhere near, this time. So those are some of the ways. We could always do more. The tough thing is, we haven't been able to get them in the park, but now if we have these, restrictions stay where they are, hopefully we can stay engaged and actually get them back into the brick and mortar ballpark and, get them on the field. We did do one catch on the field where, we kept it to no more than 40 people on the field at any one time. So you're able to schedule, and it sold out pretty much immediately, where he just came out and played catch in the outfield. So hopefully we do some more things like that. But we definitely want to stay top of mind and keep engaged with our fan base.
As you mentioned, a couple of names that we kind of hold dear here in the Norfolk area: Dean Creamer, DJ Stewart, Ryan Montcastle, John Means. As we were kind of talking about before getting started, and a lot of people have asked me, if a person's not on that major league roster, obviously some people know about the 40-man roster, and then you mentioned a 30-man roster. But players who are not with the Orioles right now, where have they been competing, and what have they been doing to stay in shape? And have you been in contact with some of these persons?
Yeah, right now the players that aren't in Baltimore are on 30-man taxi squad in Bowie. That's the side of our AA franchise. So the Bowie Baysox are strategically positioned where they're close to Baltimore. It's easy for Baltimore's front office to get down to Bowie to see these guys play. So you had guys working out there, and it's all inter squad. So they're not playing other teams. They're just working out on their own as a team, and waiting for that call up, whether it's injury or illness, or just they're playing well and it's their time to get their shot. All those guys have been working out there, and anyone that isn't on that taxi squad, they're working out on their own at home, wherever that may be. But Bowie is where the that taxi squad is now, and where you see guys coming up from.
And with this reopening, I guess if persons were there, are they allowed to see some of those inner squads, or are those closed?
They're closed to team personnel. So it's people that are working there, and people from the Orioles. But yeah, there's no in person. There's no autographs. It's all keeping that social distance and making sure all those guys stay healthy and ready for when they get that call.
Sure. Well, Joe, if we could, just taking a break into action. Just kind of to reintroduce, this is Sports Talk 757, produced by the Hampton Roads Sports Commission and the HR Chamber. And for those who have just joined in with us, we have with us Joe Gregory, General Manager of the Tides. I just wanted to thank our sponsors again: Optima Health, Atlantic Bay Mortgage, CHKD Sports Medicine, and encouraging you to continue to send in your questions by way of the Q&A chat function at the bottom. Again, we're just happy to have this show up and running, our second episode, and just to continue to highlight and feature sports in the region. As many of you know, we canceled the Junior Olympics and our corporate challenge and other in-person events. So we had to pivot of sorts to stay relevant and to continue to highlight sports, which is our mission, and we've been able to do so very successfully. So Joe, again, thank you for being here. As we were talking about the players and then the taxi squad and all this sort of thing, if you've talked to any of them or texted with them or tweeted with them, how has this affected the players? Their prospects of moving up, or their prospects of developing, or their prospects of, kind of getting that September call. What would have been some of the effects that you've heard from some of your AAA guys?
I haven't spoke to the players specifically. Most of my contact has been with the Orioles front office and my contacts there. I think for them, those 30 players on that squad, it's a great opportunity for them because they know they're constantly in that spotlight. It's not like you are spread between, Norfolk and, Frederick and Bowie, and, you're all in one spot being watched by those guys constantly. So if you're playing well, you're getting noticed, and it's not like, the Tides are in Gwinnett and maybe, they're not getting watched because they're on the road, or, Bowie's playing in Akron, and, everyone's there every single day. You're playing well, you're going to get noticed. So I think, that pool has been, funneled down to just 30 guys that, those guys there, this is, their shot. This is the best opportunity they're going to get. So if they play well, they deliver, they're going to get their opportunity. So I think this, obviously it's terrible for all the players that are working out at home and not getting that time in the spotlight. But for the players that are there, it's a great opportunity to show what you got and, make that move to the majors.
All you need is a shot. Talking about no fans and social distancing, what would it have been like with the Tides playing with no fans? What are some of the promotions you might have done, or, how could it have worked? I know we're seeing games now in the major leagues with no fans, seeing football games even this past Sunday with no fans. But how would that have looked with the Tides with no fans?
It would have been quiet. I mean, but that being said, I wanted to do fireworks even before this got started. I wanted to do fireworks opening night, even though we weren't playing. So, I think we definitely would have found a way to do fireworks. You'd see those cutout faces in the stands like they're seeing, and I'd still bring my dog to the ballpark. I didn't bring him today because he's not a fan of the rain, but we definitely make it as fun and interactive as we could. It wouldn't be the same with not being able to smell the hot dogs cooking and the ballpark food, the barbecue stand we got. Definitely would have been a little eerie. I couldn't imagine being in that ballpark without hearing the fans, and also just seeing our season ticket holders that you're so used to seeing every single game. It would have been eerie. I would have taken baseball with no fans over no baseball. Right now I might be the only one in the ballpark, and it's not a normal feeling, but we would have found a way to do it, and we're going to be ready to do it come whatever day they tell us. And I know that field looks great out there. I think it's the greenest it's ever looked. So if we had to play a game tomorrow, we'd be ready.
Now, the question that everybody wants to know, would we have still had Jack Angerson?
We'd have Jack if Jack wanted to have us.
Right. Jack's
here. It's weird those days where Jack can't make it because he's working the PIT or one of his other hundreds of responsibilities. But I can't wait to hear Jack's voice booming over the PA come April.
Sure. Well, something I've also been asked about and read numerous articles on ESPN about is the contraction of minor league baseball. So I would imagine, and most people would, your AAA affiliates would not be affected, but they could. But to tell us a little bit more about what's going on in minor league baseball with a number of teams, upwards of 20 or 30 or even 40 teams going to be eliminated in this upcoming year in a number of cities across America.
Yeah, it's definitely top of mind and the most important thing facing minor league baseball now and maybe ever. As far as what the face of minor league baseball is going to look like. You're right. They were talking about contracting from 160 to 120. Mm-hmm. So you look at 40 teams, 40 cities losing their team. There was a report that was leaked where they named 40 teams. That was months ago, and I'm confident that this has changed. That minor league team I worked for in Mahoney Valley was on that list. I'm hoping, next time the list comes out, they're not.
It's a beautiful stadium up there also. I mean, it's a massive stadium.
Yeah, I mean, for the Penn League, it's a great ballpark right on the edge of the mall there. Great, easy for the players, to walk around, because a lot of those guys are living with families, host families at that level, and they don't all have cars, so that was, convenient for them. Here in Norfolk, we weren't on that list. I don't anticipate ever being on that list. We have a great ballpark here. We had consultants from minor and major league baseball come through, and what they're looking for in facilities. We have the room to put in more player amenities if need be. But I'm confident we're going to have a team regardless of what shakes out here. You're right. AAA doesn't seem to be as affected. There are a couple teams that were listed, but not, we weren't, like I said, we weren't one of them. That internationally that we're in was not really impacted much, if at all, by the early reports. A lot of it was that lower level of baseball, the rookie league, the short season ball. And a lot of it is, major league teams aren't putting as much emphasis on the actual gameplay for developing players. They look at keeping guys in extended spring training longer. They're working more on analytics and things along those lines. So if they're looking to play less games and, as we talked earlier, drafting less players, then it would lead to reason that, they wouldn't have as many teams. Now, I'm rooting to keep all 160. I've got a lot of friends with a lot of teams, and, beyond that, there's a lot of small cities in those, Appalachian League and Pioneer League or, New York Penn League, that if they don't have that local, minor league baseball team, they're going to be, hundreds of miles away. You look at, I think it was Montana, they're going to lose their teams. 3 teams in West Virginia that were going to be gone. And it's not easy for these fans to get to major league ballparks. And, this is their chance to see, rising stars play. I mean, I know in Mahoning Valley, Victor Martinez and CC Sabathia got their start in Mahoning Valley. The impact they have on those communities is invaluable. So I'm rooting for all those teams to keep those stadiums in those cities. But unfortunately, that's out of our hands, and hopefully we just got to hope for the best at this point.
Well, as this contraction has not only affected the teams in the cities, it's going to affect a lot of young prospects and a lot of up-and-coming youth baseball players who want to play. And what I mean by that is, if I'm correct, and you help me with this, the Major League Draft has gone from maybe 49 or 50 rounds to down to 7 or 8. And again, you can expand on that. You're a little closer than I am, but just think of the opportunities, less opportunities that players from a smaller school or from a less development standpoint, will have in the future moving forward. So less teams and less players in these farm systems.
Yeah. I mean, as we were talking, you see guys, that are drafted in those later rounds and that have significant, major league careers. There's one player that played Mahoning Valley, Tony Sipp. Tony was a relief pitcher. Was that Auburn or Clemson? I'm not sure which, but slipped through and, ended up in the 40s. We were Indians affiliate, and, Tony ended up, he had the talent and, worked his way up. And I don't know how many years he played in the majors, but, when you're cutting off the draft at 8, there's a lot of guys that are going to fall beyond that. Now, this season, without having a minor league season, you don't see the impact as much because, frankly, there aren't the jobs to have. But going forward, you would hope that there'd be more opportunities for players to get noticed. Like you said, coming out of smaller schools or, kids that are getting drafted out of high school. Plenty of guys have been drafted, in the first round that didn't make it, that, see guys in the 30s and 40s that, did deliver. So, I'm all for guys getting opportunity, seeing those underdog guys work their way up. And, we've had plenty of guys that, fight their way to get through AAA. It's so tough just to get to this level, let alone the majors, that, I'm all for getting more guys in that system and, seeing as much talent as we can.
Absolutely. Well, speaking on opportunity, and something that's very near and dear to our hearts in the chamber and many other organizations in the region across the country is our diversity and inclusion, or justice, diversity, inclusion, as some would say. And a lot of this has come in discussion from Major League Baseball and minor league baseball in the front office, in coaching and in playing. How do you feel where the dashboard is, or the barometer is on opportunities for minorities in minor league baseball as it relates to playing, coaching, and administration?
I think I could speak more on the administration side of things. I think minor league baseball was doing a very good job in making strides in that arena, where they created basically a university, a scholastic program to get more minority students involved in the sport, bringing them down to St. Pete, for a time period, putting them in various office positions there. Vincent Pearson was the director of the diversity initiative. And I think Vincent went to Virginia State, if I remember correctly. But Pat O'Connor, who up until recently was president of minor league baseball, really helped steer this program. And a few years ago, Pat came into the area, and he and I went to Hampton and spoke in front of their sports management program there, which was a great experience. And the woman who was president of that sports program there, Tajma Brown. Tajma now, she works in the minor league front office full time. So, I think, right there shows direct impact of, having minor league baseball put that program in place. Pat and I speaking at Hampton University, Tajma, being a Hampton student at that time, being exposed to it. And now I get emails from Tajma all the time on, minor league baseball initiatives. Now, that being said, we can always do more. By no means is it time to rest on laurels and be proud of what we've accomplished. It's what more can we do? But I definitely think minor league baseball has gone down that path, and they recognize it early enough to have some, some momentum and some tangible results so far that we can use to see where we can keep going forward. Because, it's a changing world, and what was right yesterday and was the correct way to go doesn't mean that's the way we're going tomorrow. But I feel like minor league baseball on that administrative side, I feel like we've made some good strides there.
Good. So what would you say to college or high school or even younger kids who are looking to get into minor league baseball, either as coaches or administrators or persons in the front office? What's some advice you would give there?
I mean, I would just get involved as early as possible. Like I said, I started working when I was 15 at that LPGA tournament.
Sure.
And, it wasn't glamorous. Like I said, I was taking out the garbage and, digging ditches and painting and setting up parking lots. But it put me in that environment where I met people, showed I did a good job, and every year I got promoted. That by the time I was looking for a job coming out of college, I had, 5-6 years of experience behind me already that put me, head and shoulders above, someone that just wanted to work in sports. So I think, it's important for students to come and work at the ballpark and, get an internship, or even, you can't get it for credit. We have plenty of, seasonal jobs here, to get that experience. And a lot of it is also get the experience because you may want to work in sports because you're a sports fan. But as it's not all glamorous. When there's plenty of, like, if we were playing today, I'd be out there pulling that tarp.
The tarp.
Yeah, and just because I'm the GM doesn't mean I'm not on tarp duty.
That's right.
So it's all hands on deck, and I've got plenty of muddy shoes in here, and you keep a change of clothes, and it's not as glamorous as what you might see on TV. So as important as it is to get experience to advance yourself, is also to see, hey, maybe this isn't for you, or it's not what you thought it was going to be.
Well, as we teach all young people, there's no quick climb in these different careers. So the groundskeeping and the interning and the player promotions or game promotions and, kind of assistant GM and doing the different things in the office, no strangers to baseball persons. But, kind of backtracking a little bit what we talked about, and as you see in the NBA arenas, the NFL arenas and in other sports, and you guys obviously being very creative there at Harbor Park and be very sensitive to what's going on. What would you guys have done had you been playing baseball this year about a Black Lives Matter movement or All Lives Matter movement, or some of the things that's going on in the public? Would that have been showcased on our scoreboards or field or player uniforms, or what were some of the things that you might have done to kind of bring awareness?
Yeah, I think we definitely would have done something. it's tough. A lot of it, we'd have to take our lead from minor league baseball because, as you know, baseball is so traditional as far as logos on uniforms, logos between the foul, in fair territory.
Sure.
So for some of that, we'd have to take our lead from there. But I mean, definitely the video boards. We would work with community leaders.
Sure.
I feel like we've been inclusive here. Whether it's race, religion, sexual orientation. Minor league baseball is a place where everyone's welcome and everyone should feel included. So I think a lot of it, we would go out to the community and meet with these leaders and ask them what's, their thought, because what I think might be right or appropriate may not be. So often in these instances, we like to rely on our, partners in the community to say, what can we do that's impactful? What can we do that makes sense? And, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're just, pandering and you're doing something, to appease or, to get recognition, because it's not what it's about. You actually want to do something impactful and you want to do something meaningful. So it would be, selfish or arrogant to think I know what's right to do. I'm going to need some help and some guidance on that. So, we would definitely look to those relationships and ask what's best. And, in the past, we've done that with the local LGBTQ community. In this instance, we'd work with different community leaders. And, I think we have a responsibility here as the Tides where, we're the only, professional baseball team in the area. We're the largest professional team in the state, frankly. And, with this being such a big market, a lot of that falls onto our shoulders. And I'm happy it does, and I'm proud that it does. So it would definitely be something we would do, and we would just, look to our friends and partners to see the right way to do it.
Well, just moving subjects a bit, and one of the pre-recorded questions we've gotten asked a lot about, a totally different subject, but a casino built beyond your outfield walls, and something that all in Norfolk and some of the other entities have really pushed for. What are the Tides and your ownership? What is you all's view on that, and will that automatically be a boost to the Tides having that built right there on the property?
Yeah,
it's approved.
Right. The local leaders from the casino came out 2 weeks ago, maybe, and they had a press conference out here in our picnic area. Under the we were less than 50 people and all proper social distancing, but met some of the leaders there. And I think in the long run, it would be a great opportunity for the ballpark and the team, bringing more people to the area. If you have families staying there, it's an opportunity, to take a break from the casino and walk across the parking lot, catch a ball game. It's an opportunity for the casino to have, patrons come before and after from the ballpark to the casino. So in the long run, I see the casino being a major partner of the team. And that being said, I think in the short run, we would definitely have some heartache. And, as the casino is getting built, obviously there'll be issues with loss of parking and congestion and things along those lines. So my only hope is that, once they start building it, they build it fast and, keep the impact as minimal as possible. But short term, it'll be difficult for us. Long term, I think it'll be great for us.
Good. Well, I know, that will certainly enhance things. Joe, we certainly appreciate this, this time on this afternoon. If you could give us a parting shot or two, what are some of your outlooks for 2021 or some of the things that you wanted to leave us with?
No, I'm looking forward to 2021. Frankly, 2020 was going to be a great year for us. You looked at the promotions we had set up, the partners we had on board. I think our schedule was fantastic. Since I've been here since 2011, this would have been, I think, by far our best year. That being said, we already have a lot of things lined up that we're easily going to be able to roll into 2021. Sure. It'll be interesting to see how, those celebrity appearances go. Mm-hmm. We had some great celebrity appearances, characters from The Office coming in. We had, NFL players coming in. We had some of those that worked so well in the past for us. So it'll be weird what the new normal is. You know, are people going to wait in line and put their arm around a celebrity, or when is that going to be okay again? If it's going to be okay. But the great thing is, we're taking the opportunity to clean up around the ballpark, get everything ready. The stadium is going to be ready to go. We're going to have great promotions. We got plenty of giveaways sitting here ready to be handed out to fans. So I would just say, come April, whatever the new normal is going to be, we're going to be ready for it, and we're going to be ready to play baseball.
Good. Well, certainly have been one of the millions of attendees, that have come through your doors and certainly plan to when the park gets opened up. It has certainly been a jewel and a resource of our community. With that said, everyone, please mark your calendars for episode 3 that'll take place on October the 1st. And, kind of get in the habit of every other Thursday. On October the 1st, we'll feature senior athletic coordinators Steve Suttmiller of Norfolk, David Rhodes of Virginia Beach, and Kevin Cole of Chesapeake. That group will discuss all things VHSL and how we'll reopen high school sports and how those things will get rescheduled. So we look forward to that. Also, for more information on Hampton Roads Sports Commission, please visit our website at hamptonroadsports.org. And please, be safe, wear your mask, and have a great afternoon. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for all those who are participated. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Al.
Okay.